Hey guys, all right. Today, mine is actually going to be technically it's called it's a true crime story, but it's also about vigilante justice. I just want to give everybody the heads up that there are some things in this story that are a little touchy. This gentleman was this particular gentleman that we're going to be talking about was there were 21 felony counts that had been brought up against him. Not one of them ever stuck except for the last one. So, my story takes place in Skidmore, Missouri in the 1980s. At the time, the population was 437 people, so pretty small town. A gentleman by the name of Ken Rex McElroy was considered the town bully. There were people that were terrified of this man. He was charges had been brought up on him for stalking, for theft, for SA, attempted murder, burning a house down, cattle rustling, which was still a thing, I guess, back in the 1980s.
What? To interject, what is that?
Cattle rustling is basically when you
Like,
go
are you saying rustling or wrestling?
rustling, like stealing, is what it's basically
Okay.
stealing
Gotcha.
somebody else's cattle.
Okay. Just
and-
making sure they weren't out there trying to pin the cattle down
Right.
and wrestle them.
No.
But okay.
And
go
I
ahead,
think
I'm
in
sorry.
this situation where this happened, he was actually in the process of loading cattle onto a trailer out of somebody else's pasture. And that's where
Wow.
it got it was so bad that even law enforcement, I think, was actually afraid of this man. Because he had a good lawyer, he had money to spend on this lawyer, and he got off on everything that he did. One of the things was he was married to a young lady named Trina. Trina was 12 or 13 years old when they met. This man was 20 years her senior. Okay.
Wow.
He was married. He would sit outside her parents' house, he would sit outside her school. He was accused of SA when she was 13. The saying or the story around it is that he was married at the time. She lived with him and his wife, and kept pressing her parents to let him marry her, let him marry her. He was advised by a lawyer when the SA charges were brought up that he needed to divorce his wife, marry Trina, therefore she could not testify against him. So that's what he did. Now, in the 1980s, I'm not going to say this was the first 13-year-old girl that ever got pregnant, because she ended up getting pregnant because of this. But I'm just saying that in this instant, this man was already married and he was stalking this girl, this child. So that was some of the charges he had been brought up on. One of the things that he had done was he had flagged down a neighbor that was coming up the road. He was down the road shooting his gun off, and somebody came and got this gentleman and told him, "Hey, somebody's at the back pasture shooting a gun off." So the gentleman goes down the road. He says he gets closer. There's a gentleman standing out in the middle of the road with a shotgun. So the guy kind of flags him down. So he stops. Ken accused him of stalking his wife and being at his house with in a white Pontiac, I believe. When the guy tried to tell him, "I don't have a car that's that description. I don't have a white Pontiac," he called him a damn liar and shot him in the stomach through his door.
Wow.
The gentleman to this day still has buckshot in him because of it. And they brought him up on charges. He went to court over this, and he had two gentlemen testify that it couldn't have been him because he was with them that day. So he got off. Still terrorized this man, still stalked him, still sat outside his house, did all these things. Finally, over the years, the last thing that was basically the straw that broke the camel's back in this community, his two daughters, he had a daughter who I think was about 11 and one that was 4, went into a local grocery store that was owned by the Bowenkamp family, and took a couple of pieces of candy. The 4-year-old did, and what the story she told her family, her mom and dad, was that they accused her of stealing. The story that the people in the grocery store said is that nobody accused her of stealing, but she did steal the candy. So mom got pissed, comes down to the store, starts cussing and screaming and yelling about how somebody told her daughter she was a thief and all this, blown way out of proportion. When the grocer said, "We didn't accuse her of stealing," she goes, "Well, you're about to meet my husband." And that's when the terror started for the Bowenkamp family. He would sit up at the grocery store across the street and watch them going in and out. He would sit outside their house at night and shoot off a gun. In 1980, April of 1980, Mr. Bowenkamp, who was 70 years old, mind you, and this man was a lot younger than him, was sitting out on the back loading dock of the grocery store. Mr. McElroy drove up in his car down the alley, got out of his car, started pushing his sleeves up, saying, "You want to fight, old man? You want to accuse my kids of doing this? You want to do this? Well, we'll take care of this." Mr. Bowenkamp's like, "I don't have any reason to fight you." Well, that set him off because he took out a rifle and he shot the man in the neck. Mr. Bowenkamp was 70 years old. He nearly died. He had lost so much blood, and that got him indicted. Finally, he was brought up on charges that he could not get off, but because he wasn't what they considered a flight risk, because he had never left town when the other charges were brought against him, they decided to let this man out on bail. The day that he was let out on bail, and there's a little speculation on whether it was the day he got let off on bail or if it was a day after, but what the story goes is the day that he got let out on bail, he went home, got his wife, who at the time was Trina, went to the local bar with a bayonet and a rifle, and was making threats and saying that he was going to, he was going to get that man once and for all, and the charges will never stick, and just going on and on and on. There was also a story that was circling around that the day that Mr. McElroy got out of jail, the townspeople called a meeting. And in this meeting, they decided that they were going to take care of this once and for all, because the law had failed them. When McElroy showed up at the bar and he was making all these threats, outside the townspeople were gathering. He was run out of the bar, and as he was walking out of the bar to his truck, him and his wife, the people that were in the bar followed him out. Trina says they were making jokes about how he wasn't going to get out of here alive. There were probably about, what they said was 30 to 40 people outside across the street from the bar. As McElroy and Trina got into their car, they sat there for a few minutes. He started the truck up and shots rang out. He was shot point blank in the back of the head. All of these shots were on his side of the truck. She claims that she tried to get out of the truck and somebody told her if she got out of the truck, she was going to be murdered. There is also a claim that some people got her out of the truck and took her up to the bank for the women at the bank to take care of her. He was killed, and nobody saw a thing. And that was the whole premise. There were probably about 40 to 50 people out there. Nobody will say who shot him. Nobody will say who was shooting. This whole town has been sworn to secrecy, and they've never spoken about it. So this was in the 80s. They've never given the person up that killed this man.
Wow.
And
now, was it just one person that killed him?
Honestly, the one shot killed him, but there were several other shots and different calibers of guns that were used. But what's funny about this whole thing, and I don't mean funny, haha, I mean like funny, kind of looking at things. The town is divided, honestly. That there are some people that are like, he was a good man. He never did anything to anybody. I don't know where the hell they were living because it's documented that he's shot people. He was misunderstood. He was a good father, and you can be a good father and a jackass to people outside of your family. So that don't make, just saying that person was a good father, husband, whatever, don't make him a good person. The town has never talked about it. They've never given up the person that did it or persons that were involved in it. There is a documentary out about Skidmore, Missouri, and it's called Skidmore, Missouri, No One Saw a Thing. You get a chance, watch it. Depending upon which side of the verdict you're on, it'll either make you extremely sad or it'll piss you off. And I was on the latter end. So the more that I saw these people boohooing and crying over this man being taken out, all the stuff that he did, I mean, this is the thing, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When I was in school, I was bullied. Unless you have been on the other end of being bullied, you have no idea the thoughts that go through a person's mind, because after a while, you get tired of it. And if nobody's there to help you, I can understand these people taking the law into their own hands and doing what they did, because you can't keep on and keep on and keep on. These people lived in fear of this man. They couldn't even walk outside their front door without him sitting out in front of their house, shooting a gun off, sitting out front of their place of business, shooting their dad when he's just sitting at work doing nothing. It don't make no sense to me.
There's such a thing as like, you get tired of people getting away with everything and anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that gets old really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, you think, okay, this is it. Karma's going to bite them. And then nothing happens.
Yeah.
Or they end up in a better situation, or, whatever the case may be. It sounds like this guy was a menace. And I actually have heard this story. Sorry. I've actually heard this story before,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe I've watched the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably been a while, but, it's just, all the stuff that he was accused of, and just nothing happened. Not even so much as slap on the wrist, kind of.
Yeah.
Wrist, kind of, not risk, but a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
It's just, it gets very frustrating. And, there does come a time where people are like, enough's enough. If the law's not going to take care of it, I'm going to take care of it.
Absolutely.
And we're not condoning, taking the law into your own hands. But I do understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate that his children don't have him anymore now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like he was a very good role model for them in the first place.
No.
And I'm not saying, please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anyone deserves to be killed.
No.
Because I don't know that they do. Which is in direct conflict of the fact that I believe in the death penalty. But, just taking the law into your own hands is really something that is a very slippery slope.
Yes.
As far as like, I get it. Sometimes justice does not work the way we think it should work. And that happens a lot.
Yeah. Or fast enough.
For sure. That happens a lot. But we do have our system in place for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I took the law into my own hands every time someone cut me off or wasn't following traffic laws or wasn't doing this or wasn't doing that, I would be a serial killer.
Right.
Like, honestly,
right.
Truly,
right.
I really would be.
Which we probably all would be. I mean, honestly.
I mean, it's just, you just get enough is enough is enough is enough.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that.
You get tired of seeing shitty people get ahead.
Yes.
While you do everything that you think is correct and right, and you you live your life in a way that doesn't bother other people,
Yes.
doesn't inconvenience other people, and you just live on. And then here are these people that every time you turn around, they're screwing somebody over, or they're doing things that are wrong and bad, and they're winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Or, they're winning the jackpot at the casino.
Yes.
So, and believe me, the thing is I speak from experience in a couple of situations in my lifetime where I've thought, when karma comes around, I want a front row seat, and then karma has yet to come around. In one instance, it did come around. It just affected somebody else, and that was sad to me. Yeah. That person took the effect. Now, in another situation, karma has never come around. I don't know if it ever will this side of heaven, but I'm okay with that, and eventually it'll get there. But in the situation like in this town, you can't live in fear every day and it not affect you. Right. And there were other things that happened in this town that were horrible. Is there a curse on the town? I don't think so. I just think there's a lot of unfortunate events that happened in this town. It just happened to happen in this town. So, right. But in the case of this man, there is a part of me that can understand why they did what they did. Now, the wife has basically said, I know who did it. This is who did it. They've never pressed charges against anybody. Literally, if they were there, nobody saw a thing. And that is the stance that they've kept with. And I'm going to tell you something right now. You want to talk about the hardest thing to ever do is to keep a secret just to yourself. Imagine 50 people having the same secret and nobody says a word for over 20 years. Nobody has ever said anything.
That really has to say something, because inevitably you put a group of 5 people together.
Yep.
You're going to get 5 different opinions.
Absolutely.
You may get 4, you may get 3.
Yeah.
But you're going to get different opinions. The fact of the matter is you're going to get different opinions.
So, I mean, to me, it's like, how hard is it for you to keep a secret? Imagine 50 people trying to keep that secret, and
nobody's saying
anything. That's the thing. Nobody's talking, and it's now when you watch. And I do recommend you watch the documentary. It's a really good documentary, but if you watch the documentary, there have been some speculation and rumor that people have been threatened. I've never seen any documentation of that. They do, according to his family and people that are on their side, that the townspeople have harassed him. The law enforcement has harassed his kids. And let me tell you something. These people that are on his side were never on his bad side. So they don't know what he's like. All they know is that he was a friend of theirs, and he never did anything to them, so he couldn't have done anything at all. Is basically the mentality that they took.
Which is not
the
case.
No, ever. Not at all. I mean, the man had, over the course of his lifetime, his adult lifetime, he had 21 different charges brought against him that were felony charges, not misdemeanor petty shit. Felony charges. And not a damn one of them stuck except for the last one. And it looked like he was going to get off on that one too. So at that point, I just think that the people had enough.
Sure.
And the only way that they felt they were going to get out from under the terror that this man put on them was for him to be eradicated. And from a moral standpoint, is it wrong? Yeah, we've been taught our whole entire life that killing somebody or retaliating is wrong, that you shouldn't do it, that you'd let God handle it, let karma handle it, let the universe handle it. But on I don't know, just a personal level,
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
I absolutely get it. Like I said before, you don't know what it's like until you're on the receiving end of a bully. And I am so sick and tired. And this is what makes me so angry. I get so sick and tired of hearing people that bullied people when they were in high school or elementary or stuff. It was like, oh, well, kids will be kids. Kids will be kids, but kids have killed themselves.
That is true. Kids will be kids, but there is just innately a way to treat people,
Right.
regardless of, and it is our job as parents to teach that. You don't have to like everybody. You
No.
don't. I mean,
No.
that's America. You don't have to like everybody. It's America.
Yep.
But I mean, just kidding. But you know, you do have to treat people respectfully.
Yes.
Regardless of whether or not you like them. I'm not saying you have to respect everybody, but you have to treat people respectfully. And there is a difference.
Yeah.
I think there is a difference between treating someone respectfully and respecting someone.
Right.
You can not respect somebody and still be polite and still be cordial.
Yes.
And still be a decent human being.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you can also, here's a good example. You know, McDonald's has 2 lines. Most McDonald's has 2 drive-through lines, right?
Yes.
That merge into one line, and that's how it works. And it usually, you know, they kind of stair step each other where, you know, someone is done ordering before the other line and they pull ahead, and then the other line finishes ordering and they pull ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we happened to be in a drive-through line one time, my husband and I, and there was someone we were at one speaker, there was someone at another speaker. We finished and pulled up as much as we could, which wasn't a lot because there was a car directly in front of us. Well, the person at the other speaker was taking a very long time, but we were already done ordering, and we pulled up, and by the time we pulled up, that person was ready to pull up. Well, we didn't let them in between us and the car in front of us because we had been done with our order long before they did.
Yeah.
She literally rolled her window down and said something to my husband, whose window was still down, and said that he was rude because he didn't let her in front of him. And he was like, I was already done ordering and you were still ordering. And she's like, but I'm supposed to go after that person. And he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. But you're just a jackass.
Yeah.
I mean, why did you need to say something?
Right.
So what?
Right.
He got in front of you. So what?
It's McDonald's, for crying out loud.
Calm down. They're still going to have your food when you get to the window. You know,
it's true though.
You're not going to have to pay the wrong amount.
No.
For your food because someone got in front of you.
Right. Right.
I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. You don't have to respect somebody. You know, obviously my husband doesn't know this person. He didn't respect her. He doesn't know her.
Right.
But he was still treated her respectfully.
Yeah.
Even though she was being a jackass.
Yeah.
So that's the example. That's what I'm talking about. As far as like, you don't have to respect people.
No.
You don't have to bully people.
No.
To make yourself feel better. There are other ways that you can accomplish those things.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know it sucks that you don't get to participate in their bad luck when they've been a bad person to you or to your family or what have you.
Yeah.
Or just generally you don't agree with the things they do. You don't have to do anything.
You don't have to respond every time.
Anything. You don't have to give it energy
or
give it life or anything like that. You can just move on, you know, honestly. But I do understand when the same person keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Eventually, it will come back to bite you in the ass when you act like that.
Right.
It will come back.
Right.
It may be years.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. And it may not even come back to that person, but it comes back to their family.
Yeah.
So, but it's gonna, I mean, there is a verse in the Bible that says, be sure your sins will find you out. Yeah. You have to live your life that way. You will never get away with everything. And we joke about stuff about how we watch so much true crime, we could get away with it.
Right.
You won't get away with it. And karma and this universe and even God has a way of coming back, whether you believe in all that or not. It always comes back to you. And I guess the thing that upset me the most was this guy had done thing after thing after thing after thing to people. And then when they lashed out, all of a sudden he's the victim.
Yeah.
And his family's like, but he was a good person and he did this and he did that. But he also terrorized families with young children that were the same age as his kids and had no thought in their world about the stuff that would follow these people. And you know, in the documentary they do talk about other things that have happened in this town and how they believe that the town is cursed because of some things that happened way earlier before Ken McElroy. It's a good documentary. Like I said, it depending upon which side of the fence you are, it'll piss you off because, but in the other sense of it, these people, no matter what this guy was, his family did lose somebody. Okay, they lost him,
Right.
and they have every right to feel wronged. They have every right to be upset because they didn't know the man that everybody else knew. So that's that's the thing. I mean, me and Jenny have been to funeral services where they eulogize somebody, and we were both like, not the person
Who's
that
that?
I knew, you know. But everybody, just because they don't change in your eyes doesn't mean they haven't changed.
Right.
So this man was a horrible person to people that he deemed did him wrong. And these people suffered because of it, to the point where they didn't feel like they had any other choice. When you push somebody to the point where they feel like they have no other choice, you cannot be shocked by what choice they make.
Right, exactly.
At that point, honestly. And I hate to be that way, but like I said, on a moral standpoint, was it right? No, they shouldn't have taken the law into their own hands. But as a personal and in my heart, I understand why they did what they did.
Right.
And even in this now, that, you know, this was before internet. This was before cell phones.
Yes.
If it was during the time of cell phones, we'd have known who done it because somebody would have got it on film.
Yes.
But the fact that this entire town has kept this a secret since 1981. This is when this happened, 1981.
That's crazy to me.
That's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, the majority of these people are probably gone, but the younger people, I was born in 71. I'm still here. She was born in 74. So there were young children that were in the mix of this. So,
yeah,
you know, even they aren't talking.
I mean, it's the old adage, two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Exactly.
And that's basically, you've got so many people that have the same secret.
Yeah.
And that should tell you what you need to know about what kind of person this guy
was.
I don't know if he necessarily was this kind of person. I don't know him, but the type of person he was deemed to be by other people. Right. That right there says it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tells me everything I need to know about him. So.
And I am a big proponent of, I will make my own decision about who someone is. Right. Or by the way they are with me. Mm-hmm. Because people are just innately different. Yeah. They, you know, I may like somebody and my sister may completely hate that person. Right. Because that's just not the type of person she vibes with. Yeah. You know, and same for me. It's just not the kind of person I vibe with. You know, I mean, we have friends, we've had throughout our lives, we've had friends that either friends she had that I didn't like or friends I had that she didn't like. It's been that way since we were little. Yeah. I mean, it just happens because I can vibe with certain types of people. My sister can vibe with certain types of people. And that doesn't mean those people are bad because one or the other of us doesn't vibe with them. Yeah. It just means our personality doesn't vibe with theirs. Just not our cup of tea. But when you've got a bunch of people
they don't vibe with you.
that have the same